Finance Minister Seth Terkper will present government's 2015 budget and financial statement tomorrow. But however, considering that most of its target for 2014, including key macroeconomic indicators like inflation and growth rate, were not achieved, what should we expect in the budget tomorrow? What projections will government make to solve the crippling energy crisis, for example? And as we expect some major austere measures to satisfy demands of the IMF, should we be bracing up for higher taxes? This is today's big story. Now, latest figures from the Statistical Services Department put inflation for the month of October at 16.9%. Now, what makes this inflation figure interesting is the fact that government had projected it will keep inflation at about 9.5% by the middle of 2014. This is a target not achieved in the previous year's budget. And there are also a lot more. So in the face of a crippling energy crisis and the fact that restructuring the sector is a major conditionality for activating the Millennium Challenge Compact 2, can this program-based budget bring us hope? Let's get on to the phone lines now and speak to economist John Gachi, Dr. John Gachi, who is joining us now. Good evening, sir, and thanks for joining us. Good evening, Dr. Gachi.
Good evening.
Now, let's talk macroeconomic targets. The 2014 budget projected a non-oil real GDP growth of 7.4%. Overall real GDP, including oil growth of 8%, end-of-year inflation target of 9.5%, within plus or minus 2 percentage points, and then overall budget deficit equivalent to 8.5% of GDP and gross international reserves of not less than 3 months of import cover of goods and services. Have we been anywhere near these projections?
Well, I think we have indicated earlier in the year that those macro targets were not going to achieve because of the environment within which the budget was being executed. So it is very clear that inflation is not going to be achieved. It is also very clear that the growth target of 7.1 may not necessarily be achieved. But the good thing is that I believe the growth target will be very close to the target.
Right.
And that is not bad at all. Because if you have your economy, that is value beyond 85 billion, and then you are growing around 6% or 6.5% for 2014 in the difficulty. I think that is not a bad performance at all. I also think that when it comes to the international reserve, I believe that one also has a shaky outlook. But we also need to look at another aspect of the reserve in the sense that on average, as I've looked at our reserve over the years, our reserve have been operating between 1.8 months of import cover to around 3 months of import cover.
Right.
Therefore, even though we have not achieved the target, I believe we have not deviated for the trend that this economy has been experiencing over the years.
Okay, so you do expect that 2015 will bring a brighter prospect in this regard?
I believe the brighter 2015 is predicated on how we are able as a nation to resolve the energy problem, especially in the first quarter of 2015.
I see.
That would set for greater stability in the country, and that would set a total of cities contribute more to revenue generation in the country, and that will also have some effect on inflation as we go along, and that is when the brighter picture for 2015 may be unfolded.
Right. Right, Dr. Kachi, there is also the expectation that the finance minister will be asking for an extension of the stabilization fund, which was passed ostensibly to prevent shocks to the economy. Should further extensions of this fund be granted, seeing that there have not been demonstrable evidence of fiscal prudence?
Well, I think that question should be asked the finance minister, because I do not understand what you mean by fiscal prudence has not been demonstrated. So I think he should be in position to answer. But the point is that these kind of levies are introduced by asking businesses which are doing somehow better to contribute more or to sacrifice more to helping in recovering the economy.
Right.
And normally they need to have a sunset clause, that is a limitation or the lifespan as to when this will end. We started that around the 2000s and we ended it, and then I believe President Mills time they started and ended it, and then this one to have come again.
Right.
But I believe there is a need to extend it. There is a need for the finance ministry to look at the strength and the revenue generation ability of the businesses that are contributing to the stabilization levy,
right.
And to see whether when they extend it, it will not throw them out of business. And if that is the case, then the next step should be some kind of discussion with business community as stakeholders to agree to continue to contribute to the in order to help stabilize the economy.
Right.
Because the overall benefit of stabilizing the economy will also inure to the benefit of these same business that are sacrificing more now.
Right. Dr. Gachi, I'll have you hold briefly. I'm joined on the line by Kweku Kwating, the other telephone line. Kweku Kwating is of Boise West MP, a member of Parliament, a member of the Finance Committee of Parliament. Good evening, sir.
Good evening.
So, what are your expectations of the 2015 budget?
Well, my expectations are that, one, the budget should clearly define strategies for addressing the energy difficulties we're having. We understand the problem. One, it is the fuel, and we are told that gas supply from the West African gas pipeline has been very unreliable. Now, the ministry has already assured us that it is exploring alternative sources for gas.
Right.
Now, I would want to know what the strategies there are. I want to know where money to access those sources will come from in 2015. So we expect the budget to clearly deal with these matters. Secondly, in addition to the problem of fuel, we are also looking at generation. Our generation infrastructure appears not to be very fragile. I want to know 2015 how government can assure us that the kind of difficulties we have, the breakdown and the repair works that have on some occasions made it difficult to get reliable power is addressed. These two things must come out clearly in the budget. And then the other broader matter, and that I think the budget has no choice but to address, is also the deficit, especially now that we're going into a program with the IMF. Government must clearly define those reform interventions, reform of the public sector that would free resources for addressing the deficit.
Right.
These are clearly the two major things I would be looking out for tomorrow as the minister presents the budget.
Now let's narrow down to what you raised the key issue of the IMF support program, and there are expectations that we should see some austere measures captured in the budget. Do you think that the structure of our economy now can support any austere measures?
Please put your question again. Sorry.
Right. I'm saying that you raise a key issue of IMF conditionalities on the back of you saying that we need to rein in the deficit problem of the budget. I'm asking on the back of this and against the background that Ghana is going into a program support arrangement with IMF. I'm saying that these have all indicated to us that there could be some austere measures captured in the budget. I'm asking you whether you feel that the state of our economy today or the structures that support the economy can sustain severe austere measures.
Well, in the first place, we have no choice. I mean, if government continues to spend money it does not have, time is going to come when government probably cannot pay wages. So it's not as though we have the option of some welfare program. Where we are now, we can find ways of cutting our expenditure. I'm very worried when we talk about austere measures.
Yeah.
Because sometimes those austere measures would stifle, make it difficult to generate revenue, and then we are back to square one. We need those reform interventions that would free resources immediately. Now, that will require bold leadership. For instance, we are aware, and this discussion has come up over and over again, that there are public sector institutions that ought not to be on government payroll. We have always discussed this. Somehow, government is very reluctant, or you just don't know. Government itself has announced it in its homegrown measures, has announced it many times in the budget that it will do this. It doesn't do it. Now, we need to get there immediately. Now, we also need to look at which state institutions we do not need at all. And I expect the budget to identify some of those areas that immediately we can deal with to assure ourselves that even if we are going to have to look for money to do some of those immediate things, getting to the latter part of this year, that it will begin to yield a dividends. Without reform, I just don't see how some strict austerity measures in themselves can deliver us from the economic difficulties in which we find ourselves. We need reform.
Right. Mr. Kwati, we're also told that the MPP would be coming out with its own version of the budget. Can you confirm that?
Well, as always, MPP is our responsibility to offer alternatives. And yes, we will be coming out with, depending on what government puts out, we will also be coming out with our observations and offering alternative strategies that may deliver Ghana better outcomes than we would consider the budget would deliver. That's purely consistent with our role.
Right. So you are in effect you're waiting for the budget statement to be read for tomorrow before you begin to punch holes and create your own budget out of that. I would have thought that you come up with something proactive before then.
Well, we as a member, we're all Ghanaians. Our desire is not to create a parallel government. Our desire is to contribute to the discourse on solving the nation's problems. So we want to be working with what government itself would put forward, because it's the government that holds the purse. So we will be putting forward strategies to help government itself deal with the problems we have. Of course, it will be alternative proposals. We expect government to take on board some of those proposals, but it would not be a straight attempt to present an alternative budget independent of what government will be presenting. That would bring to the fore the question of whether we're going to get resources to do it ourselves. We don't think that is the way we ought to organize ourselves as an opposition party. So we'll be looking at what government will put out. We will propose, we will point out the weaknesses as we would see them. We'll propose alternative strategies and bring some pressure to bear on government to do those things that it has been feeling lazy or reluctant to do going forward.
Right. Thank you very much, Kweku Kwating. We're grateful. Let me now go back to John Gachi. Dr. Gachi, if you're there, Kweku Kwating raised some issues that I want to put forward for discussion. Now, he raised that among some of his expectations are the fact that he wants to see strategies for addressing Ghana's energy challenge. This is something we're all hoping for. Coming from an economic standpoint, what will be your recommendations to go into this area? I know that you're not an energy expert, but you may have ideas to put forward which can help address the energy challenges we're having currently. What do you foresee, or what do you suggest?
I think we all know that investment in energy infrastructure is always beyond 1 year. So what I foresee is that from 2013 and then 2014, a lot of investment had already been made in energy infrastructure. Some of them are reaching completion points. So what we will be expecting tomorrow is to see how there will be a very clear coordination as to how those projects are reaching completion points and how, when they are going to be on stream to alleviate the energy problem that we are facing. If you are going to engage in a new strategy of investment, that means that the dividend will not be in 2015. It is well going to be beyond 2015. But already investment has been made in 2013 and 2014, for which in the first quarter of 2015, we are expecting that those things will come on stream.
Right. I mean, there being discussions over streamlining the energy sector so that Ghana can activate the Millennium Challenge. Dr. Gachi, if you could reduce the volume on your television set, we're getting feedback, which is making it difficult for us to grateful. Yeah,
there is a problem at your end. I am not.
Right.
Television set.
Right. Oh, okay. Now I'm saying that we're expecting there have been discussions surrounding the need to restructure the energy sector to make it possible for Ghana to activate the Compact 2 of the Millennium Challenge account. Now, what types of investments should we be looking at if we really are serious with addressing the energy challenges that we have?
I think the projects have been designed already. Those in charge of the Millennium Challenge account have been to the U.S. They have signed some memorandum of understanding already. What we are waiting for is implementation of the project have been captured. So it is not now that I think the nation is going to be thinking of what is going to be done. I think all those things are part of the rules that have been designed for the energy sector of the country. So we only wait to see the specific implementation timeline if that will become necessary in tomorrow's budget. So right. I believe that there are pipelines of projects geared towards the energy sector. What I am expecting in 2016 is the collection and coordination of all those projects to see how they will begin to be trickling into the stream to contribute to alleviation of the energy challenge that we are having in 2015. And basically, some of the projects will not come on stream in 2015. They will go beyond 2015 into 2016 and beyond. So we need to catalog those projects that will be on stream in 2015 and which quarter are they coming on stream. These are the things that I think we should be expecting tomorrow into a budget.
Right. Dr. Gachi, I need you to hold because we'll be coming to you to discuss a little more on taxes, the issue of taxes as we go forward. But still on energy, John Peter Amewu, who is an energy policy expert from ASAP, is joining us. John, we're grateful. Good evening.
Good evening and good evening.
Now, I asked Dr. Gachi a while ago what types of investments we should expect in the energy sector to address the crippling challenges. Now, let me quickly fast track from there and read you the budget targets for 2014. Now, in 2014, government projected that it will add an additional 342 megawatts of energy to the already installed capacity by completing the phases. The different phases of the 20 megawatts boom thermal plant. It went on, that is just one, and then also complete the 161 kV Tumuwa transmission project. These are only two. I will stop there. Now, when we look at the projections that were made in the 2014 budget, do you foresee that anything will change as the government prepares to read the budget tomorrow? Do you suspect that anything will change at all from what was projected last year?
Well, so I think into consideration the various sectors. One,
Mr. Ameu, I beg your pardon. I think your reception, your service is a bit bad. If you could reposition yourself, maybe move to a window or something, we could get a clear service from you, and we'll continue the discussion.
I don't know. Let me try to reposition.
Yes, sir. Yes, sir. We're grateful. Right. So, yeah, you were saying.
I'm saying that we need to do a thorough review of all the value chains along the energy sector. It has to do with the oil and gas, and then the power sector. You agree with me? Action of 120 barrels per day. This was not acceptable within the period. We've never achieved that. So, estimation of a group
right.
The price have moved part of the year.
Right. Ms. Amel, we're getting bad feedback. We can't hear you very well. So we'd have to replace the call again and see whether we'll improve our service. So we'll quickly move a discussion to Dr. John Gachi, who is on the other line. I apologize, Peter Amel. We're getting bad feedback from you. We'll hang up and then call again and see if we can get a better service. So, Dr. Gachi, let me get back to you. I was earlier talking about taxes. I mean, as we go into the 2015 budget, what are expectations for taxes? I mean, we've spoken about austere measures. Will these austere measures will include perhaps reining in government expenditure, reducing the public sector wage? Would it also come with increased taxes for businesses and individuals?
Well, I think reducing wage bills, reducing government expenditure, as we all know, there are programs which are already ongoing. And I believe that will be strengthened the more in 2015. But the point I think I should make is that, as I continually say over the months when the IMF started the discussion, is that the posture of IMF now is such that I do not think the announcement by the finance minister tomorrow will include any measure that adversely will affect labor relations.
Right.
I do not see a situation where there will be a cut down on the public sector employment, because that is not the posture I can foresee in the IMF. I also think that there will be alignment of some taxes. I know that it will be possible to shift some of the excess duty of petroleum and go into VAT for obvious reasons.
Right.
So that in times where prices are favorable, government can rake in more revenue rather than increasing taxes on those items. So
right.
I think that is the realignment of taxes that we may be seeing in the budget tomorrow, but not complete increase in taxes as we are afraid of.
Okay. All right, Dr. Gachi, I'm grateful for your time on today's Big Story. Dr. Gachi is a chartered economist and is a senior lecturer at the University of Cape Coast. Let's get back to John Peter Ameu, an energy policy expert. Mr. Ameu, thanks for getting back on the line again. We were discussing issues or maybe measures or policies that need to be implemented in order to resolve the crippling energy crisis facing us.
Hello?
Yeah, Mr. Ameu, I'm saying that you were talking about measures to we're expecting in the 2015 budget to address the energy challenges. You can go on, sir.
Yeah, good. First of all, I was talking about the petroleum sector. And you realize that the main focus under the upstream sector in the 2014 budget was to achieve a production target of 120,000 barrels per day.
That's right.
This, however, was not achieved. The estimation of the crude oil price was based on a 7-year moving average of $93 per barrel. However, you admit that over the period, we have had major parts of the period experiencing a crude oil price of over $100. And so, except at the last quarter of this year where we have a shortfall in crude oil prices, we don't expect the budget shortfall in terms of the total revenue from the crude oil over the period. So in the 2015 budget, what we're expecting to see now, of course, is going to be a projection that will be quite a shortfall of what we saw in 2014, because the crude oil price going forward is going to be lesser than we estimate in the 2014 budget. The corporate tax position, I don't think there's going to be any change, and we are likely to see a figure slightly lower than what we saw in the 2014 budget. Now, taking these factors into consideration, we may not be in a position to say that there's going to be tremendous shortfall in the oil revenue, that the oil revenue would all be just as it's been predicted, which we expect to see in the budget. Now, my recommendation, which I think going forward, is that the review of the priority areas for spending of the 4 areas will need to be taken into consideration in this particular budget, because over the period, we have spent our oil revenue thinly on a number of priority projects, and these have not been helpful to this country at all. So in this new budget, we expect to see a reduction in the number of priority areas. Probably a minimum of 2 areas will be most welcome.
Right.
Now, within the gas sector, where the problem is, government has come out with a gas pricing policy that was developed and approved by Parliament. What we haven't seen during the period was government initiation of bringing this policy out to the scrutiny of the general public. But as I speak now, the public is not aware of this gas pricing policy. I expect this coming budget to take that into consideration and make a provision for roadshow so that the public will be more educated on this pricing policy. It is very important because the framework is important so as to get, more gas into the system. I also think that it's important for this budget to take into consideration a conclusive and aggressive strategy to address our gas shortage. We have noticed over the period that the shortage of gas from Nigeria was as a result of Nigeria's own aggressive strategy of increasing their domestic consumption, and also the price link that we arrive at with the gas. What I think we need to do now, this budget must make provision for alternative supply of gas.
Right.
The good thing about the system is that the pipeline is a third-party asset, which makes provisions for alternative people to supply gas into that pipeline. So I think that some amount of money must be made available in this budget, to secure gas from area upstream in Nigeria. It is very important. This can address largely our shortfall in terms of security of supply of our energy use.
Right.
Now, with the power sector itself, you will agree that government, in the 2014 budget, one of the main objectives was to achieve 5,000 megawatts by 2040. By then, they have done completion of the C3, the T2, and then the green hydro power, which is also completed. There was also a projection to add about 342 megawatts to the expected installed capacity of 2,800. This was not achievable because the small 220 megawatt thermal plant was not completed. The 11 megawatt Tico expansion plant was not completed. The 12 megawatt solar panel, project, the PV project was
also not completed.
So you realize that there's a lack of, effectiveness and efficiency within the power sector.
Right.
Most of the distribution and transmission lines have not been completed. And so I see this budget taking those projects that were not completed in 2014 budget into consideration.
Right, Mr. Amel, quickly, I'll chip in one last question. We don't have a lot of time to go. Now, you speaking about oil, let's oil and gas. Let's focus on GMPC. You do know that in the face of recent controversy over GMPC's 1.2 billion loan, etc., there being suggestions that government must review allocations to GMPC based on their capacity and efficiency to spend the money. Your quick response, view on that.
Personally, that was one of the recommendations I was going to give, because you agree that the percentage was sliced down from 40% to about 33%. But GMPC, under the Petroleum Revenue Management Act, it's allowed not more than 55%, which has now been brought down to about 30%. My suggestion to government is that if it is possible, unfortunately it cannot be possible because the law says every 3 years, and that has been reviewed already. Otherwise, what we need to see in this budget is to make sure that we send GMPC back to 44 or 40%. That can also, cushion GMPC against some issues of going to the open market for securing loans through an authorized procedure. So it's important that the government must begin to make some allocation out of its, participating interest, available to GMPC.
Right.
That can also push GMPC to capitalize for its investment projects in the upstream.
Right, Ms. Amiwo, we are grateful for your time on today's big story. That's where we draw the curtains down for today's big story. We're grateful for all of you who made time to be with us on today's big story. We'll be right back with an interactive segment. Do stay.